The second issue that we're looking at is racism. This is where someone is prejudiced, discrimination, or antagonist against someone of a different race based on their belief that one's own race is superior. In football, there have been cases towards players and managers and even fans. This will be where someone will say something about their race or belief to offend them. You will normally find in these cases that they are just saying it for the sake of saying it to try and anger or upset players to put them off when playing. This is completely illegal, and whenever it has occurred there have been big punishment, as it is not acceptable at all. Since 1968, racism has been made illegal to discriminate any public place or resort. This was known as the Civil Rights Acts of 1968. Despite this being put in place only up until 1976, this was when the law was strengthened massively, as it defined direct and indirect discrimination and also founded the Commission for Racial Equality, following the Macpherson report into the death of Stephen Lawrence. The 1976 Act was amended in 2000 to include the police for the first time. This meant that there would be a big punishment for these acts, leading to there being a deterrent for people involved. As much as there has been change in racism, it is still far from out of sports, and especially football, with racism occurring all over the world in football every week. It has, however, changed in that racism mostly comes from fans, whereas it used to be very hard for people of different races to get involved in all types of sports, and even if they did the racial hate, that they would get it nothing like it is now, as it used to be quite simply horrifying for them and unfair. Racism can be aimed at many people in football, including the fans, officials, but most of all players. Starting with fans, you can find that fans can be racist towards other sets of fans at the game, or even before and after the game. This is more likely to happen in games that are between teams of different countries, as they send racial allegations towards the fans of the nationality or race that they are. A prime example of when this happened was in 2015 in the France Metro, when Chelsea were playing away in Paris Saint-Germain, France, where 4 Chelsea fans didn't allow a black French man onto the train, where they were accused of racism, and it was taken to court. They were ordered to pay the victim a sum total of €10,000 in compensation. With referees getting racially abused, this will happen often from fans, where there aren't really examples on this, as it never really gets caught up on, but you can find that in football, when the ref is of a different race, this can occur when fans believe that the ref has made an unfair decision on the team. You can find that some fans will say something about their race, sometimes shouting it or saying it under their breath, and is normally being out of frustration of the decision they made. Now for players, this is the one that occurs the most and happens week in, week out, on and off the pitch in various scenarios. The first, racial abuse from fans to players. One example of this happening was included when Man City played against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge in December 2018. In this instance, Raheem Sterling was going to collect the ball as it had gone off for a corner for Man City, where the fans by the ball in the stand started hurling racial abuse at him and were even threatening. Raheem hadn't done anything to them, not even looked at them. From this, the Chelsea fans got banned for life by Chelsea, stopping them from being able to watch Chelsea live. There has also been an instance where fans chuck bananas at players, where this is trying to send a message to the darker players that they look like monkeys. Another incident that can happen is where people are racist to other players during a game. This has occurred in many leagues, where one example is in the Turkish league, where Emre Belözoğlu used an offensive racist word towards Didier Zokora during a match in 2012 due to him just fouling him. This was caught on camera, where he was sentenced for being racist, but the sentence was suspended by the court as he had not committed any previous offences of racist nature, and in belief that they would not repeat his racial behaviour. There are a few reasons to why racism happens in football, one of them being down to the to the use of it over the years and how it is just carried on into modern day football, as it used to be very common, especially when it wasn't classed as illegal. This being down to the 21st century, racism would occur a lot in football, as people would have used it where it has been used. People like players and fans will have carried this on due to them seeing it happen, and because it wasn't as strict then, you will have found that people would have got away with it a lot more. From this, it had been copied and carried on so much that it is still in the game today, just not as much as there were. So it's a lot less. There's a lot less racism in the 21st century than there was in the 20th century, but it's carried on from the 20th century. However, racism doesn't actually really occur just because of the person's race. Obviously, this is what they're trying to say and abuse about, but it isn't the reason why they shout the abuse most of the time. The reason they will shout the abuse most of the time is due to the frustration of an actual decision from the person of a different race has made. For example, for a player to receive racist abuse from another player, this will normally occur from them fouling the other player, and the player that was fouled reacting with a racist comment due to the frustration of being fouled. Also, they can receive racist abuse from fans. This normally being if a player or another race scores a goal, the opposing fans didn't disagree with racism will shout racist abuse to them due to the frustration of their team conceding. Another instance that can occur is racist abuse aimed towards the referee. This is normally be after a decision that they made, where you can find that either fans or players can respond with a racist comment due to them believing that it is the incorrect decision, and then being frustrated by this decision. Adding on to these points, some people will say the comment in the moment of frustration, and this being down to the social learning theory, where they've taken this off over people as they have seen them act in this way and their actions being reinforced. You will from this have some people that regret it after and don't do it again, and put it down to an in the moment comment. However, you do find there are people, mostly fans, that say this because they actually believe that people of a different race are generally worse than them, and that they want to hurt them by saying these comments. These people are the people that are racist, and this is why there is still racism in football, and despite it being illegal. From this, I believe that there were mainly negative effects from racism. The first negative effect can be the person that is racist. They can face a ban from football and even a prison sentence and fine due to certain circumstances. This is a negative, as it can lead to them not being able to attend football matches, and also in prison, where this can affect their personal lives, and with the fines on top, this may leave their families in bad places. Another negative can be the reputation it gets for a club as the racism. This can look bad on the club that fans or players are from, and leaves them in an awkward situation where they have to put a punishment in place, otherwise it looks bad on them. This means that the team can have negative press on them, which will make people think badly of them, and even make players think badly of them, especially of a different race, and not want to join them as they disagree with their team. A prime example of this is Chelsea FC, where there have been numerous occasions where fans or players have been racist in games and around football, and now they're labelled as a racist club, where really it's actually just a few fans that are, and this is unfair on the team, as it's not their fault for the fans that are like this, and they've even put the bans in places. The only positive that can come out of this is nothing to do with the racism, but the release of frustration from the fans, as it is known to be better to let it out than keep it in. Also, they may feel happy with themselves with the comment. From this, despite me not believing this, this leads to another negative, as it can harm the player that receives the racial abuse on how they look. If this occurs numerous times at a person, it can really hurt them and affect their mental health in different ways. With racism football, there has definitely been change with this for the good, but there is still more to change for the sake of it being kicked out of the sport fully, as it still occurs on some occasion. One main reason into why the changes of it being less likely to occur over the years can be down to the change and development in society. For instance, with the people of racism now being used less in general, it has now dropped in football as well due to this. Also, it is a lot more common for black players to be in a football team now, as it will have been a lot more rarer 50 years ago for black players to play as much. So when this was the case, they were thought much more of an outsider, and people will have been racist about them due to them being different. So now that it isn't as rare for this to occur, people don't think as much of it as being an outsider, so there's a lot less thought and first impressions aimed towards them, and isn't thought to be different, and also is illegal now. Also, a change that has occurred is the severity of punishments for racism, as you may have found around 50 years ago, when it was a lot more common, you wouldn't have been punished for it. Now you find that a case is put in place on it, and depending on the actions and what was said, the punishment decided and will be along the lines of bans and fines for them. This being done can be down to more cameras being at games, so therefore they can get video evidence on what happened, as people will have got away with it back in the days, as officials may have not heard it, so there was no proof. The change in punishment also being down to the fact that it's now classed as illegal to be racist, so therefore the punishments had to be worse due to this. To try and help prevent racism from occurring so much in football, there have been initiatives put in place. One main is Show Racism Red Card. This is a motto that has been used, as red cards are used in football to ban and get people off the pitch if they do something against the rules. This is something that is used over the world to show that we unite as one against racism, and it needs to get out of the game. This is a good initiative, as it shows that no matter where you are from, the racism shouldn't be in the game. And despite all the players being different teams, that they will not stand for it and will stand together. This will make people being racist outnumbered and intimidated, as there are more people, so hopefully they don't do it as much as they realise that they shouldn't. Another initiative that is a new one is down to the ref, where in a game from fans that if they're racist, they get a warning that they need to stop or the game will get abandoned. If they then after this don't stop, the ref and the FA have to make a decision on whether to abandon the game or not. This puts in place a deterrent against them doing it, as they will want to get the game and they want to watch the game, and if they're unable to, this will be a negative for them, so therefore they will stop it. So they'll stop this so they can watch the game. All of these changes and initiatives being put in place had a positive impact on the game, and none having a negative impact at all, despite there still needing to be more change due to the fact that racism does still occur in the game sometimes. The amount has definitely lowered in the past 100 years. This is a huge positive, as it makes the game a lot nicer and not having constant hate to someone for their race, and it has been a positive for the people that receive the hate, as they will not hurt them as much hearing this and can affect them from performing. For example, in a recent game between Bulgaria and England, the Bulgarian fans were shouting racist abuse at the English black players, where you could see them getting annoyed by this. From this, the referee stepped in, warned them, then nearly abandoned the game, which led to the fans stopping the racist abuse, and the players were able to get on with the game and have a good game of football. This is just one of the changes that stopped racism from occurring, as all of these changes together have had a huge impact on the amount of hate lowering. With what is in place for trying to get racism out of the game, my recommendation would be to carry on with the bans and the fines as a deterrent for the racists. This being good, as it stops people from being racist, so they don't want to get banned or fined. My only recommendation with this is to ban for life more the people who are racist, because you will find that with some people that no matter how much they get fined or banned, they will always find a way to be racist, and with fully banned for life, we are more likely to get racism out of the game, as they won't be nowhere near to do it. To summarise, racism in football is still very much in the game, unfortunately, but there's been a huge drop since it becoming illegal, and it being a lot more common for players to be different races. Also, with with this, there are a lot more initiatives in places bringing everyone together to come against racism, which will help the case out massively, and also it being recognised a lot more and turned on, as only recently has it been a big talking point in the game so much.